Hello, bookworms of Concord. It is officially March, which means it's time for me to go through the books I read in February, and I'm going to start with the story of Kullervo by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I'm going to put the cover right here because I don't have the book with me. I left it back in Finland with my wife so she can read it because the story of Kullervo it comes from the Finnish Kalevala, which is an extremely important epic poem of the Finnish and Karelian culture. And the story of Kullervo particularly is Tolkien's earliest work when he started kind of compiling his own mythology, and in the book it's actually only 35 pages, the whole story, and then in the rest of it are like essays by Tolkien and I think a couple other people. So it's an unfinished work, so you have to kind of judge it as what it was intended to be rather than what it is. But that's all I'll say about that. If you're more interested in what that is about, go and see the rest of my channel for my review on the story of Kullervo. So with that out of the way, the first book I actually read in February was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the very first time I've been going through the Stormlight Archive, and I read this in just a week, which was a lot shorter than I expected. I was expecting 10 days to do at least 100 pages a day because it's 1,007 pages. But this was absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that I started this series. I'm currently on the second book, so you can expect that in the March readings. The next book I read is Call of Madness by Julie Dean Smith. This was a nice little obscure fantasy book I found at an antique bookstore in Finland. It's pretty short, just over 300 pages. And this is part of a 4-book series apparently. And from the research I've done, these are the only books that Julie Dean Smith has written and published. The series is called a Cathan Crusade, and I really enjoyed it. It only had like a 3.32 average rating on Goodreads, but I liked it so much that I actually gave it 5 stars. And I'm excited. I got the other books, and I'm excited to explore the series even more, the whole world she created. But basically what it's about is magic is extremely taboo in the world of Caithe, Caithe, and the church views people with the ability of magic as being children of the devil. So these people are heavily persecuted by the church, but there is some leniency in Caithe. And the main character protagonist, she's the princess of Caithe, and she starts manifesting the magical abilities, which you can imagine what problems that will pose. And so she has to fight her own prejudice against the magical people because she is now one of them. And it looks like she's going to be quite prominent in the Cathan Crusade and trying to liberate the magical people. The next book I read was Ashley Bell by Dean Koontz. This was not like Dean Koontz's normal books. This is one of his later ones, published in 2015. It felt like it was written by a completely different person, and I do not mean that in a good way. So I gave this 3 stars because of that. There's just like this huge divide between like this book and the books he's written in the 80s, which are, from all the ones I've read so far, which aren't that many, are all phenomenal. But this one is about a girl named B.B. Blair who is diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she miraculously survives. And she finds out from through this really strange woman that she survived cancer so that she can in turn save somebody named Ashley Bell. And she has no idea who this woman is, so she's trying to figure out how to save this woman. And of course, it being a Kuntz novel, there are bizarre twists throughout the book. But again, it's not like not as good as his older books, but it was still kind of decent. But I wish it was better than it was. The next book I read is also a Dean Koontz book, Midnight, and this is one of his earlier books from 1989. So this was absolutely exceptional. It was just absolutely mind-blowing. He really likes writing books about strangers and these weird events, kind of connecting them together. So it's another one of those with four strangers who find themselves allying together to fight the great evil that is in the small town in Northern California called Moonlight Cove. There's a mad scientist involved with an experiment gone completely wrong, and it's just a really, really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Unless I read a lot more amazing books, this will probably end up on my top 10 of 2025 later this year. This next book I actually finished on one of my plane rides back home to Michigan from Finland, and that was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This was an absolutely beautiful story. It is fantasy. It's I guess you could classify it as grimdark because it's set in the modern world. It's kind of hard to tell like which time period. I want to say like maybe the 40s and 50s, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's a fantasy world set in the modern times. This guy named Linus, he is sent on a highly classified assignment to this orphanage that houses 6 dangerous magical children, including the Antichrist. And so he is stuck between having to do his duty his duty, not just his duty, but his doing what he has grown accustomed to do, which is just living a boring life, or choosing to do what he has always dreamed of doing. But yeah, this was a very beautiful, surprisingly beautiful story. For my Christian audience, there is a gay romance in here, unfortunately, which of course we do not approve of, but despite that, the story was just absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed this book. And the last book I read in February is Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the first book of the trilogy, The Final Architecture. So, this is a space opera where this moon-sized alien aliens called the Architects. They just come and just absolutely destroy planets, and one of them in particular, this is Earth. It basically just peeled it like an orange, which is absolutely terrifying and mind-boggling, in which it did that in under an hour. And so the human race basically messed with the minds of certain humans to give them these powerful psychic powers. And one of them is Idris. He was able to kill one of the Architects. And then after that, the Architects disappeared. And many years later, about 80 years later, Idris and his motley crew discover something that suggests the Architects have returned, and they're racing across the galaxy while governments and spies and space gangsters are chasing after them. So yeah, those wasn't as good. The first 30% was difficult to read, but you can pick it up if you so desire. So yeah, those are my reads of February in 2025. Okay, bye.